Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Haven Today is brought to you by Haven Today.
Unfolding Prophecy in the Middle East, a 1-hour Moody Radio special asking key questions like, why can't we have peace now?
God says, I will make Jerusalem the city of peace. Satan says, I will make it a city of bloodshed.
It's a spiritual war.
And Satan will never, ever stop. Never stop.
Unfolding Prophecy in the Middle East, recorded in Israel. Scripture, dramas, interviews. Join us.
Find it at moodyradio.org/Cleveland under Programs.
The sounds of war. Recently, Hamas attacked Israel from land, air, and sea. Thousands of rockets rained down from the skies. Many are now dead, and many more are wounded. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has announced, quote, "We are at war." Casualty numbers are bound to climb. Destruction will continue on both sides of the conflict. What can believers do? Pray. That's what we can do. Scripture calls on us to pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Would you join me as we pray briefly right now? Lord God of heaven, you are the ruler of all nations. We call on you to look down on the violence that rages in Israel and Gaza. We ask you to end the bloodshed. We invite you to bring a spirit of peace to Israel and Gaza and the entire Middle East region. And may our Messiah Jesus get glory in the process. We pray this in his peace-bringing name. Amen. Let's continue to pray for peace.
This is FEBC Today with Ed Cannon, the president of the Far East Broadcasting Company. Ed, Southeast Asia can be a difficult place to reach with programs. How is it that we're able to reach the Hmong people group?
Well, we still use shortwave radio, Wayne, and we use speaker box technology and cell phones and even internet broadcasts.
Okay.
But the real secret to how we reach the Hmong people is found in Jeremiah chapter 23, where God says, "Let the prophet who has a dream tell his dream, but let the one who has my word speak it faithfully."
Oh, yes.
I listen to the Hmong Bible program every day, and I jot down notes. When Sunday comes, I take the notes and share them with members of my church. I study like this every day. That's why I'm able to know more of God's Word daily. Thank you for teaching us.
You're welcome for teaching you, but it's God's Word that teaches you. It's her discipline that allows her to learn. She said she takes notes every day to share with people in her church. And then she goes on to say, that's why I learn God's Word, because she has the discipline to listen every day, to take notes, and share those notes with other people. I'm challenged myself. If I could apply such discipline in my life, I would understand God's Word better. Can I challenge you today to learn from this lady? Listen to your radio program every day, take notes, and share those notes with someone around you so that you can all learn God's Word better.
Go deeper and keep current with how the Far East Broadcasting Company is reaching out during these challenging days around the world. Find the links for our weekly podcast with Ed called Until All Have Heard. Visit febc.org.
Serving Erie, Huron, and Lake counties and beyond. This is Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVME Meadville, WVMN Newcastle, WVMU Ashtabula, or stream us anywhere with the Moody Radio app, other streaming services, and at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
A pair of astronauts stranded on the International Space Station are gearing up to finally return to Earth. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore are about to wrap up an unexpected 9-month stay aboard the ISS due to issues with their Boeing Starliner spacecraft. NASA says it'll send them on their return home journey tomorrow, and it'll be aboard a SpaceX flight this time. Laurel Road in Brunswick is closed from Maxwell Boulevard to Eastwood Drive due to multiple power poles that are down from a storm that hit the Northeast Ohio area Sunday morning, according to Brunswick Police Department. Police said the power company had many resources on the scene, but that part of Laurel Road is expected to be closed for a long time. And construction will soon begin on a multiple-purpose path in Middleburg Heights along Smith Road through a Southland Business District development. Plans for a revitalized Southland were first unveiled in 2020 and include a new residential unit, retail, dining, and commercial establishments. In sports, the Cavaliers lost to the Magic 108-103. Here is your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Cloudy this morning, then clearing, but much cooler with our high only reaching into the lower 40s. Currently cloudy and 32 in Cleveland, 31 Akron and Canton. Light snow actually being reported by our friends in Youngstown, where it is also 32 degrees.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
March Madness begins this week, and with it comes the potential for the economy to lose billions of dollars. That's according to a recent survey by Action Network that predicts March Madness could cost the U.S. economy to roughly see $20 billion in lost productivity. That lost productivity can come in a number of forms, from simply being distracted while on the clock to the 40% of survey respondents who admit to calling in sick so that they can watch a game. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 6:02. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine Studio, it's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Happy Monday. Lauren is out, but the rest of us are in. And it was a fantastic share last week. Thank you to all of those who gave. She's the math person, Ron. So we're going to have.
I have a calculator, is what that is.
Well, and there's some calculations done for you by our share dashboard.
Correct.
But can you give us kind of an overview of what was accomplished last week?
So we were asking for your generous donations. We are a listener support station, have been for, it'll be, I believe, 67 years this coming November. Yes. And you guys showed up. So we cannot thank you enough. We are still looking for more people that want to partner with us. So if you are still interested, you can text the word share to us at 440-546-2255. You can also go online because we are still taking your donations. We need them.
And how many people gave? And give us some of those totals, Daria.
Okay, so we had 164 new monthly partners.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
144 new donors, people that have never given to us ever before. So
Wonderful.
We're very excited about that. We do have some thank yous that we want to address, some people that came in over the weekend. Thank you to Daniel in Menor, Raymond, a first-time donor, also in Menor, Michael in Strongsville, Carol in Cleveland, Erica in Akron, Joseph in Cleveland, Lynette in Salem. The list goes on and on and on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's not too late to give. You can still do that this week. 800-600-9624, 800-600-9624, and moodyradio.org. Did you all get caught up on sleep after our Saturday morning broadcast?
I was so tired yesterday that I went to bed at like 7, and I was still tired when I woke up.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it takes a while to get caught up when your schedule's off, and share is pretty exhausting and all that. Ron, did you sleep in, or did you get up and go and cut trees down or something?
Well, I'm banned from using a chainsaw until at least I get my thumb back.
At least that.
Wait, who banned you from this?
Dana, of
Who
course.
else?
It's a totally different saw.
I know.
Than what caused your injury.
It's probably worse.
He can't be trusted. He almost took his thumb off.
Wow.
Yeah, I have been back on the table saw a little bit. But
you did what now?
Wait, hold on. She banned you from a chainsaw, but you're okay using the same saw that sawed your thumb.
Right.
Okay. I don't understand, but I don't need to, I guess.
She's probably afraid I'll lose the grip on the chainsaw and take a foot off or something. But yeah, as far as sleep, I did sleep in a little bit. Dana and I are on a rotation for the coffee prep and communion prep at our church.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it was the third Sunday. It was our week. So I had to go in. She didn't go in. She's not quite up to that yet. But I went in and helped my buddy Wayne, who does it every week. And then there's people who help him. So we made coffee, 3 different brands of regular, and the half a pot of decaf that we make that nobody ever takes. But
really? No one takes it?
It's really rare. But you want it there in case somebody asks. You don't want to be like, oh, no, sorry, this is the wrong church for decaf. You can't worship here.
You're not welcome here, yeah. I did about 12 hours of sleep Saturday night into Sunday and got up because I felt guilty.
And that was the only reason?
I could have kept going, but I was like, I should probably stop.
You're like a marathoner for sleep.
I guess I just am so deprived of it or something. I don't know. Or I'm just, I need that much beauty sleep.
Maybe you could work up to 26.2 hours of sleep and put that little sticker on your car. 26.2. I did it.
Yeah, I'm kind of a marathoner, I guess. But yeah, I do need the extra dose of beauty sleep. Daria really liked that one, but she tried to contain herself a little bit. Also, St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Discussion topic for the two of you. He was neither Irish nor ever declared a saint. Discuss.
I didn't know he wasn't declared a saint.
Yeah, that's.
I thought he was like the patron saint of Ireland.
Yeah,
I knew he was British, but
he may be known as the patron saint of Ireland, according to History.com. But Patrick was never actually canonized by the Catholic Church. This is simply due to the era in which he lived. During the first millennium, there was no formal canonization process in the Catholic Church. After becoming a priest and helping to spread Christianity throughout Ireland, Patrick was proclaimed a saint by popular acclaim.
Just declared.
Yep, and he's British, not Irish.
I knew that.
Which I find incredibly amusing because the Irish and the British aren't necessarily BFFs,
Right. But he went as a missionary to Ireland, sharing the gospel.
After he was captured and enslaved there.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. I mean, during his 6 years of slavery in captivity, he just kind of leaned into the faith he learned as a kid and ended up going back to evangelize Ireland. So that's why they love him, because he evangelized Ireland and
did something with snakes.
Yeah, there was some kind of snake thing. And I
thought
don't
it was
know,
plants.
Pots of gold, Lucky Charms. I think he invented Lucky Charms was also part of it.
They're magically delicious.
And he was believed to have died on March 17th, 460.
Wow.
It's a long time ago.
Long time ago. But that's how we, celebrate today. So I actually went to an Irish restaurant yesterday to meet a friend who's in from out of town.
Oh, fun.
Very nice.
I had shepherd's pie.
I love shepherd's pie.
It was delicious. I haven't had it in a long time. I keep doing the corned beef bit, when you go to have, I'm like a Reuben or whatever, and just you can do that everywhere. You can't get shepherd's pie everywhere.
Not everywhere.
It was delish. So I celebrated a day early. My wife was like, was it super busy there? No. Pretty regular.
Yeah, today will be the busy day for the Irish pubs and such.
I did see, I did a little travel on Saturday. So we celebrated my grandma's birthday. So I went to meet some family. I saw a lot of cops out. And I was telling my dad about it. He's like, why are they out? I'm like, St. Patrick's Day weekend. He's like, already? I'm like, yeah, Dad. Some people get a little crazy around St. Patrick's Day. So be careful on the roads today and tonight.
Especially the people who aren't Irish or really religious at all. They love a St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, yeah.
That's the odd thing about all these holidays.
Yeah, this one in particular, it's like, I'm not Irish, nor am I Christian at all, but let's go to a bar,
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's shut it down tonight.
How about Cinco de Mayo?
That's another one.
The Latinos don't even care about it. The Mexicans are like, what? No big deal. It's just a day.
Our station manager gets so upset about that one. He's Mexican, and he's like, we don't care about that. I don't. He gets so mad every year. And every year I look at him and go, hey, Cinco de Mayo, aren't you excited? Whee! And that's very close to May the 4th, which is a much more important holiday.
Yes, it is.
May the 4th be with you, Ron.
And also with you, Brian.
Amen. Daria hates that, and I'm going to keep doing it.
I don't mind. I'm just taking a sip of my coffee. Chill out.
You did it on purpose, I would imagine. Okay, we have lots to cover today, but in just a few minutes, people argue about money a lot in relationships. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
I mean, for some people, there's just not much to argue about because there isn't much.
That might be when the arguments are the most intense.
That's right. And we've got some tips from an expert on 4 things you should avoid when discussing money in order to avoid conflict.
From Moody Publishers, a book designed to grow your faith, to really authentically grow your faith. In Fake Christianity, Jed Coppinger exposes the hidden traps of hypocrisy, prayerlessness, neglecting the Bible, gossip, and bitterness. Then, with a pastoral heart, Coppinger takes you through the teachings of Jesus, showing how to overcome inauthenticity and grow in true discipleship. Is it time to finally get serious about following Jesus? Fake Christianity is available right now at moodybooks.org.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I had a lot of credit card debt and I couldn't pay my bills. I was feeling so bad. I got to a point where I needed some help. So I reached out and contacted Trinity.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838 to talk to a certified counselor.
They were able to take all of my different payments and put them all together.
Trinity will consolidate your accounts into one easy-to-manage monthly payment, put a stop to late fees and over-limit charges, reduce your interest, and possibly improve your credit score. You'll save thousands.
And they were actually able to work with my creditors. I've been able to pay off close to $15,000 in the last 18 months.
If your debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838.
My name is Stephanie, and I'm debt-free for keeps.
1-800-659-9838.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
6:20, it's Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studio. Whether it's your faith or your health, you don't have to journey alone. And coming up here around 6:30, we're going to have our friend Dr. Philip Bernard come by from the Christian Medical and Dental Association. A bunch of nasal spray medications that seem like they're miracle drugs.
Yes, this is cool. I was reading over that in the lead sheet, and it was stunning. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to hear about this.
Yeah, I was especially excited about one that seems to be preventing colds. Yes, please. Can I have two squirts of that, please? So listen for that. And then towards the end of the program today, our friend David Mullane from Yost Insurance is going to stop by to talk about Medicare issues. He's going to try to alleviate some fears, address fears that people have had about this, but you can certainly get questions in. I'll try to squeeze in a few questions for him at 440-546-2255, 440-546-2255. Would it surprise you to hear that money is widely known as one of the leading causes of divorce in America?
No.
Not a surprise.
It's estimated that financial problems contribute to 40% of all divorces.
Wow.
This means that out of every 10 marriages that end in divorce, 4 of them are because of money. 41% of divorced Gen Xers is the percentage, along with 29% of divorced boomers state it was due to financial disagreement. Why does this not surprise us?
Because oftentimes people have two different viewpoints on money. We've talked about in our own relationships. One of us is a saver and one is a spender.
Almost always it's that way.
And that runs into problems where the saver is looking to the future saying, let's build up, so that we're not going to be poor and destitute when we're older. And the spender is more like, eat, drink, and be merry because tomorrow you may die. I wonder who would quote Ecclesiastes. I don't know.
Now, Daria, are you and Jimmy opposites in this, spender and saver, or are you pretty lockstep?
We're both savers.
Wow, look at you.
Yeah. We have, I would say Jimmy's a little bit more inclined to spend, even though he is a saver. He's like, we can enjoy a little bit. And I'm like, no, we need to, plan a little bit more and cut back.
Wow. Yeah, count yourselves blessed. 2 savers. The most dangerous combo, of course, is 2 spenders.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know, would they care if they spent everything and didn't have anything left? I don't know, maybe not. They would just get more debt.
Well, yeah, they would end up with the bankruptcy and then they'd divorce because of that. Blame each other. Well, you spent money on all those clothes. Oh, yeah, well, you bought all those tools and it's your fault. Yeah, I can't live with you anymore.
So the New York Times gave 4 mistakes couples make when discussing money.
Okay.
And
this would be good.
I mean, if we're being honest, we live in an era where buying eggs is more expensive than you could have ever possibly imagined. Scrambled eggs is like, could I have gold for breakfast?
I mean, eggs are literally, if you go to, I was walking past a cafe just the other day, they have a market price for eggs. Like if you go to a restaurant, you'll see like, if you order lobster, it's not on the menu. It's market price. They're doing the same thing for eggs.
It could change day by day.
Who would have thought? And that's just, symptomatic of larger issues where I think the average American family now is going to really be struggling. So with that in mind, let's try to prevent fighting. Isn't that nice? Let's do that. Okay, so first mistake couples make is assuming we have the same values about money. Conflicts arise basically when people presume that their understanding of finances entering in a relationship is the way to do it. Kind of like some people treat folding a towel or making a bed.
Okay.
This is the way to do it.
Because it's the way my mom did it.
Correct. And so what they suggest is a better question to try to get at the root cause of this is to ask, what lessons did you learn growing up about money?
That's a smart starting place because your assumptions are based on your childhood and what you've learned. Well, bring that out in the open. It's not the, one way to do it. It's just the way you were taught.
And I think that can help bring understanding. It's a great question.
Yeah.
How would you guys answer this to the level that you're comfortable? What money lessons did you learn growing up?
I mean, I would say both Jimmy and I learned how to make make do with little, like make a dollar stretch, because you know, both our families went through times where money was scarce. My mom was a stay-at-home mom for most of my life, so they had to figure that out. And there's all sorts of tricks. My favorite trick that my mom learned that I just thought everyone did and was normal, she started tearing dryer sheets in half. And so when I grew up, I thought like that's what you were supposed to do. And I realized that actually most people use a whole dryer sheet.
That's a really cute one, actually.
Yeah.
But that shows how you're raised can create the norms in your head of how things are supposed to work.
Yeah, I didn't know that you were supposed to use a whole one. She's just like, nope. I read that in a book and did that for 20 years, even after money wasn't quite so tight because she just got used to it.
Well, and it still works.
It still works, yeah.
Yeah, and it goes twice as far. Ron's like, boy, I'm writing that one down. We're going to save money on dryer sheets. Do you have any you learned, Ron? Just what money lessons you learned growing up?
I know it was always taught that be cautious how you spend your money. And I came to a hard realization in my high school years. I think it was around 77 or 78 when the economy was so bad that my dad owned an excavating company. And he, you know, usually you'll sell off a piece of equipment and then you'll have some money back from it. He had to give it away. Someone else assumed the payments on it. He got nothing back other than not having to pay anymore on it.
Wow.
Just to get rid of that payment.
And he shared this with you pretty transparently, it sounds like. How did you know?
I don't know if he shared it or if I overheard it.
Gotcha.
Exactly how it came about. I don't recall him, you know, saying, well, son, sit at my knee here and let me tell you the story of the paddle pan or whatever it was. But yeah, that struck me. And I knew it was hard on him because he was taking, I suppose, Valium at the time. Oh. There was something that he would take that would change his mood because he was so stressed about all the money. And when I remember that, I feel bad because I was a typical teenager. I was a jerk. And, you know, the world revolved around me. It was the Ron show. And, you know, you were all co-stars. So,
wow. I wonder if that's, I mean, you're a guy who's pretty frugal. I wonder if that's part of where that comes from.
I think it could be. My grandparents were frugal, at least on my mom's side. My dad's side, they had done a little better till my grandmother passed. My grandfather remarried. She divorced him. And as my dad said, she rented one flower shop when she got married. She owned 3 when she left. So that changed the fortunes of the family.
Yeah, I tell you, one of the money lessons I learned growing up was that it's the most private thing in the entire world. Like both my wife's family and my family, it was very secretive. In fact, I remember my brother graduated from college before me. He's older than me, 2 years older. Gets his first job. And I'm his little brother. I'm like, I want to learn this stuff. I'm in college right now. So how much you making? What are they paying you in this first job out of college? He goes, oh, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I was like, well, yeah, but like how much? He goes, it's pretty good. Okay, it's a secret. That's what it is.
Pretty good is relative too.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then on my wife's side, it's hilarious. My father-in-law's nickname among his brothers, he had 3 brothers, is Squeaks, because that's the sound his wallet makes when he opens it.
Yep.
Because he's such a cheapskate. So you can imagine my wife is very frugal. Although the lesson I remember overtly learning from my parents, they told my brother and I pretty regularly that when they were first married, they had some friends who were stationed with the U.S. military in Germany, and they were invited to go visit them. And my parents had enough money to either go to Germany or buy a couch. And they bought a couch, and they regretted it to that day. They were like, that was a mistake. Experiences have more value than things. And that, now, they didn't especially say that so overtly, but it was a lesson that I picked up on. And I was able to much more buy into that as I got older, when my wife subscribes to that pretty intensely. But yeah, you got to figure out the story. And I think this is a really important exercise for Christian couples. As we enter an era where a lot of families are going to be stressed out about money, what an easy way to get into it by asking what lessons you learned growing up to understand each other better. And that'll help kind of lightly open the door of, boy, we have different philosophies here. And it makes sense that we do.
Yeah.
It's not just, wow, what's wrong with Darius? She tears dryer sheets in half. What a weirdo. No, no, there's a reason for it. And it makes sense. They offer a few more suggestions as well. That another mistake couples make talking about money is not checking in. They suggest money meetings on a regular basis. Say a lot of couples will have a money meeting, start fighting, quit, and never return.
Yeah.
Do the hard thing and circle back.
If you're fighting every time you talk about money, there's probably a deeper issue going on, though.
Right.
Like, so sometimes those discussions do get heated, but I mean, money's neutral and you should be a team and on the same page. If you cannot have a civil discussion about money, you should probably seek counseling and possibly a financial advisor.
100% agree. Absolutely. Yeah. Another piece of advice they give is that couples often focus too much on scarcity. So every conversation about money is stressful and angst-filled. Where find a way to be playful about it. Now, you may not agree with their suggestion, but here's the idea of it. For example, one couple, like once or twice a year, they buy one Powerball ticket, they go out to dinner, and they discuss what they're going to do with all their winnings, knowing they're not going to win. And it becomes a playful experience that has, like a $2 value
It's
or
actually
something.
fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And you learn more about each other that way. Like, you want the log cabin in Montana? Sure, we could do that. Or you'd rather have a beach house in Carolina? Okay.
Exactly, Ron. You're able to discover each other's dreams in this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not telling you gamble, but I think if once a year you spent $2 on the experience of dreaming with your spouse, I think it could be okay unless you have an addiction problem.
Right.
But maybe you want to write a hate mail, that's fine. Ronald.Eastwood.
Yeah, send it to me because I waste my money that way sometimes.
All right, it is 6:32. We're up against a quick break to pause for prayer. When we come back, really interesting advances in medicine with nasal spray medications. We're going to sniff our way through that one with Dr. Philip Bernard in just a few minutes.
I'm Cindy Farini, and this is Pause for Prayer. We had several family members decline with Alzheimer's, repeated mini strokes, and various other health issues. During that time, we had been given a book that helped us not only understand Alzheimer's, dementia, and memory loss, but helped us to understand what caretakers need to do and to help the loved one, how to handle the difficult times when the loved one's personality is no longer who they used to be, as well as how to care for themselves in the midst of the daily routine that is certainly draining and often discouraging. Additionally, it was a great help in understanding our son with special needs, who has many of those same characteristics. The book, The 36-Hour Day, was and continues to be an exceptional reference and guide for caregivers. It was an easy read for the difficult task. Let's consider those who are caring for others as we pause for prayer. Heavenly Father, caring for one who is disabled, has Alzheimer's, or some other illness that requires our full-time care, you know that it is indeed around-the-clock, 24/7 responsibility. Add household responsibilities, other children, a job, and life, and you have the makings for a probable overload. We thank you, Lord, for those who care for those people at home with such challenges and illnesses. Please help caregivers to have the stamina to do all that you give them to do. For workers in nursing homes that care for patients when they become too difficult for the family to manage care within the home and provide for their needs, bless them. When times get exhausting, demanding, tiresome, hard, frustrating, and more, help us to fix our eyes on you for the guidance and help that we need that day and in the days to come. We pray our loved ones would sense only love from us, and we know that that will come from you as we go to your word, come to you in prayer, and as you help us to serve without complaining and grumbling. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
It's not insurance, and that's a new way of thinking for some families. Christian Healthcare Ministries is a credible way to meet family healthcare costs affordably, biblically, and effectively, whether starting or growing your family. Serving families as a nonprofit healthcare sharing ministry for over 40 years, CHM has offered families the freedom to choose how they would like to meet healthcare costs. Be pleasantly surprised and find answers to your questions at chministries.org/Moody. That's chministries.org/Moody. Today, there is a disciple-making church planting movement that's taken root in 40 countries around the world. It's called the Timothy Initiative, and its mission is to see a healthy church planted in every village, everywhere. Since 2007, over 200,000 churches have been planted through the work of the Timothy Initiative. But there's more work to be done. Take your place in the Timothy Initiative. Go to ttiglobal.org.
4 out of 3 people struggle with math. Brian says that's 60% of the population. Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studio. Good morning from Moody Radio Cleveland, and thanks to everyone who was so generous during our spring share campaign last week. There were 2,243 people who donated, and boy, did we get close. There's still a little room to go, and we'd encourage you to still give if you haven't yet or have more resources to throw our way. We'd be grateful. 800-600-9624. 800-600-9624, moodyradio.org. All right, well, there's some interesting advances in nasal spray medications, and joining us to give us an update on that is our friend. He is a family physician specializing in dermatology with Cleveland Clinic and is the chairperson of the Northeast Ohio branch of the Christian Medical and Dental Association. Welcome back, Dr. Philip Bernard.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning to you.
Wow, I'm pretty impressed here at how many different things are happening with nasal spray medications. Is this like some sort of new advancement in the last couple of decades? I don't remember this as a kid.
Yeah, I think that now we're getting to the point where we can get things into our bodies through different mechanisms because of technology. And a lot of people have noticed the advancements in terms of, we started taking pills, and then it became, we were able to take shots to get things more quickly into our bodies, but people really don't like needles. And that's really been the thing, is that now that we have the technology, trying to get it into your body in such a way that most people don't find painful or offensive, I think that's really where we are. And a lot of companies are trying to take advantage of these ways of getting your body to absorb certain chemicals without either having to put it in your mouth or having to inject it through your skin. And so, this is the latest thing.
So physiologically, why does it work, so to speak, to use a nasal spray as opposed to an injection?
Well, because the nasal spray is going through mucosa, and the mucosa of your body is actually a really great way for your body to absorb things. And amazingly, it does it very quickly. I don't think we had any idea that in years past that you could get something into your bloodstream that quickly and that effectively. But because of technology now, we know what can be done. And, companies that are taking advantage of those things are going to be very successful.
So let's look at the first one I've got in front of me here. It's called Neffy. What is Neffy?
So Neffy is basically epinephrine. And we all are familiar with epinephrine. It's used in anesthetics. It's used as a vasoconstrictor. We use it for, we've used it for asthma. But epinephrine is basically something that can stop your body from dilating the blood vessels. It causes a vasoconstriction, which is very important in our situation with allergic reactions. Because when you have an allergic reaction, especially a dangerous one like anaphylaxis, your body goes through a process of vasodilating pretty much all over. And that's how a lot of snake venoms work, spider venoms, those kinds of things, is that they cause your body to vasodilate all over. And so asthma, you get kind of the same kind of reaction where there's a swelling that happens to the mucosa, and you can't breathe because your throat swells up, and because of that fluid that gets out of the blood vessels and into the tissue and causes things to constrict. And so Neffy is a nasal spray. It's an epinephrine nasal spray. And it's a novel thing, and it's been out since August of last year. And it can be used for children that are 66 pounds or over, as well as adults, and it's fairly safe.
Yeah, and if this was something where my child had a very dangerous allergy, my first question is it as effective to use a nasal spray as it is to use an EpiPen?
That's the beauty of it. Because of the technology, it is as good as giving them a shot.
Wow.
In their leg. That one single dose, which is 2 milligrams sprayed up their nostril, usually is effective to stop an allergic reaction. Now, we're not talking about a mild allergic reaction. We're talking about something where, they have difficulty breathing, throat tightness, the hives. So you don't want to use it for everything. But for a significant allergic reaction, it works just as well.
Fantastic. Okay, another one you've got in front of me is Profi, I believe it's called. What's Profi?
So Profi is actually really interesting. It's a product that was developed by Harvard scientists at their medical school, and it's a nasal spray that's designed to protect against respiratory infections. It works for influenza, it works for common cold, it even works for COVID-19. And the only thing you need to know is that it's not FDA approved. It has not undergone human clinical trials in large groups, so it does not have FDA approval. But at the same time, I will tell you there are a lot of things that we use today that have medicinal qualities that we believe in who do not have FDA approval. And the main reason for that is the cost. In order to get FDA approval, you have to do large studies, which have to be peer-reviewed. You have to show your data, and it costs millions and millions and millions of dollars to do it.
Wow.
To get FDA approval. And so companies, unless they have very deep pockets, don't want to spend that kind of money. And so this group at Harvard, they have shown in the literature that this works, especially if you use it for short periods of time. And so they're selling it as a personal care product. And it's called Profi. And I think it's certainly something that we need to know about, those of us who like things that are more natural, because all of its ingredients are natural ingredients that are sold over the counter now. And they have formulated this thing, and it's basically a gel-like matrix. It produces a gel-like matrix in your nasal passage, which enhances its capture of respiratory droplets, causes immobilization of pathogens, and prevents their spread into your lungs.
Wow.
So in the preclinical trials that they've done in the lab, it's provided 100% protection against infections. So it's a protective barrier as opposed to something that goes into your body and down into your lungs.
Whoa.
So it has some, I think we'll be hearing about this at least until they do the large studies, because once they do, it's going to get very expensive. I know that. So, but I just wanted to give everybody a heads up about Profi, which is a pathogen capture and neutralizing spray.
Wow.
That's on the market right now, but you have to buy it through a website that Harvard put up at hms.harvard.edu. That's the only way you can get that. But think about it. If you're taking a trip on a plane and you know you're going to be in that plane, you don't want to wear a mask, you could just spray it, and it lasts about 8 hours.
I've been waiting for you guys to make a cure for the common cold and such, and I'm still, staring at you, waiting for it. But this sounds like an awesome idea that could. Yeah. It's not going to cure it, but prevention is just as great.
Yeah. It's I think the prevention should always be the ideal.
Yeah.
Because your body does need to be exposed to certain things in order to build up immunity to it. So if it's never exposed to it, then you move somewhere else, or you move to another country or another environment, you could have a pretty bad sickness.
Yeah.
So I think I like this idea as a way of dealing with this, especially because it only stays in your body about 8 hours, or in your nose, as the gel only stays there about 8 hours.
Well, it's 6:48. Our guest with us right now is our friend Dr. Philip Bernard from Cleveland Clinic, and also the Northeast Ohio branch of the Christian Medical and Dental Association. When we come back, there's other nasal spray medications for us to discuss, and some more conversation surrounding it. Stay tuned.
A lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money. But what if you could get both? Why not? Especially when it comes to health care, and that is Medicare. You get both. Many families save $500 a month with Medicare, and that's huge. But it's also true that people wind up way more satisfied, too. And we know this from research of members. There's a lot they like about Medicare, but especially they love being part of something they believe in. And Medicare works, too. It has for more than 30 years. There are hundreds of thousands of members who love having telehealth if they need it. They love the huge PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed, or you're part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price in 2 minutes. Here's the number. Call 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
When you open the Bible.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
654, that's Phil Wickham. We're talking about nasal spray medications that are really becoming innovative and helpful for a variety of things. And Dr. Philip Bernard is with us, family physician with Cleveland Clinic, and he's also chairperson of the Northeast Ohio branch of the Christian Medical and Dental Association. We've talked about a couple of them. Still want to cover Spravato is a new kind of nasal spray. Tell me about that one.
So Spravato is esketamine, and it's actually a product that's been used, the technology's been used more traditionally in the past.
Oh.
Now they've developed a nasal spray, and it's for two things, for treatment-resistant depression, as well as for major depressive disorders with suicidal thoughts or ideation. So for those two things, and obviously if you're taking it as a nasal spray, it must be doing something different than your traditional oral antidepressants. And amazingly, with this product, within 24 to 48 hours, there is fast-acting relief with significant improvement of symptoms.
Wow.
So, you're talking about 24 to 48 hours taking a nasal spray, and bam, within 2 days, you've got amazing improvement of the depression.
That's incredible because oral medications, I've heard it takes 4 to 6 weeks for someone to notice a change.
Yeah.
So why is it so much faster? Have they figured this out?
Well, again, it's the way that your mucosa is able to absorb these medications, and as your blood is pumped through that mucosa, through that system, it gets absorbed into your body very quickly. Wow. It's also the same reason why when you go to the dentist, you need to take antibiotics, because any bacteria or any bacteria that's introduced from that area gets into your bloodstream very quickly and can cause an infection in your bloodstream. Huh. So it's the same thing, but in this situation, you're using it to move this medicine that works by a different system, not the serotonin and the norepinephrine system, by a different system to move that medicine into your body, and it works very, very quickly.
And now, one of the questions I have for you, though, is about cost in these, because my family encountered this. One of my children has epilepsy, and their epileptologist suggested and prescribed a nasal spray for an emergency medication when a seizure lasts longer than 5 minutes. We were very excited about this, and it was only about like $600 or something for a couple of doses of this thing. Why are they so expensive?
Well, any new technology that comes out, the company that produces this and had to do all the research and all the studies to show that it's safe and it's effective, and had to, do it under specific clinical guidelines. They had to pay for that to be done. And so they incur the cost of all of that research, all of the testing that has to be done to show the FDA that it's safe to use and it's effective, and it's more effective than something else that's presently available. And so they basically try to recoup their money and then some. So that's basically the reason. Nobody's going to go out and do all this research and then give it to you at a discounted price. So unfortunately, it's the free enterprise system at work.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense logically. I just, I think the average consumer just goes, I wish we could fix this, but we can't. Dr. Philip Bernard, again, you're with the Christian Medical and Dental Association. I don't want to miss a chance to remind those working in the medical industry listening right now that they can work hand in hand with and find discipleship from other medical professionals who love Jesus. How can they learn more about connecting?
Yeah, so we encourage people to go to our website, which is nelcmda.com, and to just look us up and find out about all the different activities that we do around the city and in the area. As a matter of fact, we have a spring banquet coming up on April the 12th at the Silver Lake Country Club, which is in Upper Akron, to honor the graduates from CASE, the medical and dental graduates from CASE, from Lerner, Neomed, and the Ohio Medical School, the Heritage Branch. And we want to at least use that opportunity to introduce ourselves to those who don't know about us. It's free to the graduates who come. We'll be worshiping together. We'll be eating wonderful food there at the country club, and it's just to honor them. And we want them to invite the other students at the medical schools who they know to come and celebrate their graduation. We have Zoom prayer that's coming up on March the 29th. So just go to NEOCMDA and you can learn.com, and you can learn about all of our activities. We are here for the students. We're here for each other and to build a medical community. This is for pharmacists, for dentists, for medical people, or anyone who wants to join us. We invite you to do that.
NEOCMDA.com, NEOCMDA.com. Worst case, just text us. We'd love to get you connected. Christian medical professionals, get connected in this. This is a great way for you to grow in your faith in Jesus and connect with other medical professionals. NEOCMDA.com. Dr. Philip Bernard, thanks again for your time and for your leadership at the CMDA.
Thank you, Brian. Have a wonderful day.
You too. It's now 7 o'clock. We've got Ron's news and today's Moron Moment. And then our good friend Lisa Anderson from The Boundless Show and Focus on the Family. She lives way over on the West Coast. And so one of the more merciful ways for us to chat with her is to have me talk with her off air and pre-record that conversation. So we're going to listen back to a discussion I had with Lisa here in just a few minutes.
There's joy in the journey. It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Good morning from Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East says Russia and Ukraine are close to a deal to end the war between the two countries. It's 7:01. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. Steve Witkoff told CNN's State of the Union that significant progress has been made during recent peace talks, and the two sides are closing in on an agreement. A memorial service will be held in Parma tonight for a Cuyahoga County man killed Friday in a helicopter crash. 52-year-old Andy Jones was the only person on board when his chopper hit a power line and went down in the Mogador Reservoir. And Cleveland Massillon Road in Copley will be closed from 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Tuesday and Wednesday, according to a news release from Summit County engineer Alan Brubaker. In sports, the Magic beat the Cavaliers 108-103. And here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Cloudy this morning, then clearing. Much cooler with highs in the lower 40s. At last check, cloudy and 31 in Cleveland. Flurries and 31 in Akron and Canton. Cloudy and 30 degrees in Lorain and Elyria.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
March Madness begins this week, and with it comes the potential for the economy to lose billions of dollars. That's according to a recent survey by Action Network that predicts March Madness could cost the U.S. economy to see roughly $20 billion in lost productivity. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:03. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
We're pleased to have back with us our good friend Lisa Anderson, who's director of young adults at Focus on the Family and hosts the Boundless Show. It's a radio program, of course, heard right here on WCRF on the weekends and a podcast. Welcome back, Lisa.
Hey, it is so good to be here.
I need your help with my ignorance today. That's really what's happening.
Okay. Well,
so
what of the many topics, Brian, here can I help you with in your ignorance?
Well, here I am thinking I'm old enough to know better, and I'm not. And I'm chatting with my 19-year-old daughter and my wife. And my 19-year-old daughter was lamenting about a life change she's going through. And she's like, listen, I'm going to be around a bunch of guys, and I have to put up this coldness because if I'm nice to guys, they think I'm romantically interested. And I was like, oh, come on. Here we go. Your hot stuff, huh? You know? And her mom is like, excuse me, my wife, Brian, that is exactly accurate. That if women are nice to men, men think they're interested. What is happening? Is this true?
Well, I just think it's like, okay, first of all, the fact that you even responded that way, I think indicates that it probably is true because first of all, okay, I don't know many guys who don't think that most women are interested in them. Okay, so let's just start out with that. Okay, so what I think is just fascinating is you'll have these and it's because women are the exact opposite. Women are going to buy every product imaginable. They're going to be, running 10 miles a day because they have to lose 10 pounds forever in their life. They're going to Bible studies to figure out how to fix all their character flaws and like, what does God want me to do with my life and all that. And guys are like, you know what? I'm pretty good. I'm good.
Yeah. Never looked better.
Right. Exactly. I'm good. I can, I'm sure XYZ actress will call me up, at some point here and want to go out with me. So I think that's just a perspective situation. But it is funny because I will say that when I talk to women, there is this frustration because we almost, and here's where we shoot ourselves in the foot. It is easy to be comfortable around men that you don't really care about. You just want to be friends. And so you're going to be your natural self. You're going to have fun. You're going to kind of let it all hang out. Well, that being comfortable with who you are is very attractive.
Yes.
And so guys tend to gravitate toward that. Ladies, what we do instead to just sabotage ourselves is then the guys we're interested in, we're all awkward and weird and we play hard to get and we try to be smarter than we are or we try to sound more interesting and we're just not. And so then those guys are like, off-putting. And so I think it is kind of a little perfect storm, and it is a weird thing, and how do we get beyond that?
Now, speaking from the guy side of it, like I don't even know what advice to give then, because what I would say is, hey, you're a single guy. There's a girl who's like talking to you and being really nice. I mean, I think she might be interested. I like, what's the sign then?
Right. Well, and this is where I think really the ultimate solution has to be which is so hard. Everyone's just going to have to be honest because you cannot fake it till you make it. You can't be someone that you're not. We're all called, especially as believers, we're called to be kind. And quite frankly, kindness and engaging and being interested in someone is what will precipitate interest in you. I always say, to women, if you want to let guys know that you're there and that you're interested, be kind. Ask them good questions. Laugh at their jokes. Be the person that actually cares about people, and that is an attractive trait. And so, but then when you're not interested, it might just come down to the point where, ladies, if you're so friendly and so interesting that every guy thinks that you're into them, you might just have to have a series of hard no's right ahead of you, So, because again, all these guys just think that they're so amazing and that all these women are interested and whatever. So I don't know. It's hard. And I think it's just going to be an exercise in taking the risk and being able to be honest, which all of us are terrible at anyway.
Yeah. I was even chatting with a younger friend of mine. She said that on college campus once, she's walking around, just strikes up a conversation with a guy. Like, I didn't remember who started it on campus, just was nice. And before they said goodbye, he asked her out. It was like, right. Oh, she talked to me. A woman that speaks to me. Wow, this is it. I mean, and in some respects, from a guy's perspective, Ron and I always joke about this. Girls are scary. And so, like, if one of them doesn't seem so scary, boy, you might have a shot.
Right. Yeah. And here's my personality flaw in this sense that always gets me into trouble. I'm someone that I can't stand when people aren't included. So I'm the person in the group setting or whatever at church who's going to make sure that that person standing up against the wall, they're enfolded into the situation, into the party, into the conversation. I don't like it when people are left out. And so I'm kind of this includer, okay? And clearly, like, we know that I love to talk. I love to ask questions and all of that. So that's relatively easy. Well, what it does is it kind of sparks those kind of the loner guys, because I'm going to include them. And this has happened to me where all of a sudden it is like, oh, Lisa must be interested in me because no one else noticed I was here. And now she's talking to me. And so I have got myself into those kind of situations. And one time it was a guy considerably younger than me. And I'm like, let's just do the math on this, that this is not even okay. So that was super weird. I was like literally like little brother territory with him, trying to encourage him. Like I absolutely would have set him up with a couple of the other women there. So then I had to have that hard conversation. And let's not even talk about the time, Brian, where it happened with my friend's dad. Okay, so the other direction. And I'm just like, on what planet am I going to be dating my friend's dad? Okay, that is not okay. And so it is just a conundrum. And I think we have to be okay with just saying, like, yeah, this is not going to happen. And, you know, it's funny because it even reminds me of when I wrote the Dating Manifesto, and I put in the book a script of how to turn someone down because we're so bad at it. And just saying, you know, something as simple as, hey, thanks for your interest, or thanks for taking me out, you know, if you did this date. I don't see this going anywhere. So we need to be comfortable with just saying, I don't see this going anywhere, or I don't see you in that way, or whatever. But maybe having a collective conversation between the two genders of just, hey, guys, FYI that we're not always interested in you. I don't know, might be a good start. But would you take that, or do you just, again, think you're so amazing that no one's going to turn you down? I don't know.
Well, I think some guys would take the, I don't know if it's going to work out as a challenge. But
yeah,
I think directness is what people all long for. I think that's what they really want. And I do want to chat a little bit more about women feeling like they have to be cold. And I want to help out guys in, like, how do you ask? Like, because every guy's convinced that they're the exception. You know, like, well, yeah, this girl's nice to me, but I must be because she likes me. Lisa's wrong on this. So we got to talk through some of that. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with our friend Lisa Anderson, Director of Young Adults at Focus on the Family and host of The Boundless Show.
Making assumptions is rarely a good idea. That's true when it comes to thinking healthcare costs can't be affordable. Christian Healthcare Ministries has been helping believers meet their healthcare needs for over 40 years. It's not insurance, it's a ministry. Visiting chministries.org/Moody eliminates assumptions and shows how this unique model has worked to meet the healthcare needs of hundreds of thousands of Christians. Get more information and have your questions answered at chministries.org/Moody.
In this world filled with distractions and temptations, what does it really mean to walk with God faithfully? Join Today in the Word and devotional author Dr. Ryan Cook for an important Bible study on the book of Deuteronomy called Walk in Obedience. Read about Moses' final days as he chooses wisdom, life, and obedience to God. Do you have the courage to walk in obedience? Join our study at todayintheword.org or download the Today in the Word app.
Take your ministry to the next level at Moody Theological Seminary. Our Doctor of Ministry program equips leaders like you to thrive in your calling. Choose from biblical preaching, executive leadership and ministerial management, Christian community, pastoral care and counseling, or interdisciplinary studies. Tailor your learning to your unique ministry needs. Options to study in Chicago, Michigan, or online. Visit moody.edu/dmin today to learn more. That's moody.edu/dmin.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland. 6 to 9 a.m. weekdays on 3.3.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3.
Brian. If you're just tuning in, we've been chatting with our friend Lisa Anderson of The Boundless Show at Focus on the Family. We'll get you connected to her more in a few minutes. But again, she is out of Colorado Springs and doing great work. We air her program right here on Moody Radio Cleveland on Saturdays. Now, we've been chatting about this odd situation I encountered, odd to me at least. I was surprised to learn from my wife and daughter that women sometimes have to be cold to men because being nice to a man might make him think that you're interested in him. And you're telling me that that's generally true. So how will a guy, like, how do you bring it up without getting super embarrassed? Because some guy's listening now thinking, yeah, but this girl, I know, she's got to be interested. She's so nice to me.
Yeah. And I do want to say, because again, we're talking generally from a construct of faith here and people who want to honor God in their relationships, that it's generally true, but that doesn't make it okay. So I think we need to trend away from this habit of like, I'm just going to ignore him or say something rude or be sarcastic or belittle him. I mean, in no construct is that okay. So that said, I think, ladies, you need to choose not to be cold. But at the same time, this is where I love that guys are so honest in this space, because we were alluding before the break that, guys like to be just told things straight. They're not going to get the nuance. They're not going to be like, well, she said this, but maybe she means this. Now, sometimes they try, like you were saying, like, well, she didn't say no forever, so maybe in a month I'm going to circle back around and see what, if things have changed. Okay. They probably won't change, but that's why I've never talked to a guy who said, I don't want to hear it straight. I'm afraid it'll hurt my feelings or whatever. All guys are like, will you please just spell it out? Will you please just tell me, what the deal is and stuff? And so, again, I think it's a cop-out for women to choose to be mean or cold or ignore a guy just because they're afraid of having the hard conversation. So I will say, for the guy's benefit, that yes, if a woman says she is not interested in going out with you, it probably means she's not. And if she says, like, I'm just not... If she said, now here's again where women are going to do you dirty because they're going to say dumb stuff. They're going to say stuff like, well, I'm just taking a break from dating. Oh, yeah? Like, you
mean I have a chance?
Prove it. Yeah. Like, well, first of all, prove it, because I can tell you that if someone comes along like one of the Jonases or something like that, you're probably going to be back into the dating pool. Okay?
That's right.
So there's that. Or they'll say something like, well, I'm just not interested right now. Okay, well, that is a clue to a guy that, okay, right now means right now. So that means this might change, okay? So you need to make it very clear when you say that. And then again, you do it kindly and you affirm still their worth. And you just say, I think we all need to agree that not everyone has to be interested in everyone. Because someone asks you out does not mean that you have to go out with them. And so it's tricky. And I think we have to be honest, and guys have to be okay with the no.
So then for the single guys, there isn't much getting around, as she's finishing laughing at your joke, going, hey, you're beautiful, you're funny. Can I take you out? Like, you have to be that clear, right?
I think, and I think you need to do it, but again, there has to be a little bit of game with it. Like,
clearly I have no game. I've been married long enough; it's all gone.
So here's where I'm going to amend what you said, Brian, because again, if this is just a guy from church, they don't know each other well, they haven't, this is not a declaration of this guy woke up and had a realization a la a favorite rom-com. For a guy to approach a woman that maybe he's just been in small group with and be like, you're beautiful, I think you're amazing. That's kind of, there's an element of creeper status to that.
Oh, wow.
Just like, what have you been watching? Like, what have you been stalking my Instagram? Like, what? It just makes it seem like he's a little too intent on her.
Wow.
So I think guys practice just the casual interest. So it's like maybe something instead like, hey, would you ever be interested in grabbing dinner? I'd love to, or she says something like, well, I'm reading so-and-so book, or I'm doing this here. That's really interesting. Would you ever like to grab dinner and talk about that?
That's pretty good. So you wouldn't recommend saying something like, you must be from Tennessee because you're the only 10 I see?
I would say that is a hard pass. Yeah, no, that is horrifying. And no, unless you are so amazing that you can say that and pull it off and have it be hilarious, which about 0.01% of the guys are. So I would say don't even tread into that territory. No, that's horrible. So no, you need to be casual. Like I have other things going on in my life, but maybe I could make room to do dinner and talk about this. Or you seem to be an interesting person. Like all women want to be interesting. They don't want to be like, yeah, hey, I'm just lonely, and so I need someone to pay attention to me. That's just desperate and sad.
Yeah, I'll cross that off the list too. That was my next one.
Yeah, exactly. You just want to make a woman feel like, oh, I noticed all these women around here, and they're all great, and I'm healthy enough to just be doing my own thing, but you seem to be really interesting, and so I'd like to get to know you a little more. That kind of thing is going to play well for you.
Now, advise the ladies, how can you be warm and friendly, but also give out the vibes of don't just ask me out right away?
Right. So the first thing you need to do is if you're going to be warm and friendly, you are warm and friendly to everyone. Okay, so that should be who you are. So ladies, you're not just going to be warm and friendly, first of all, to only the guy you're interested in, because that just makes you look desperate. Yeah. And that really makes other women mad because you look two-faced. You're just a player, you're doing exactly what you yell at guys about doing, and so don't do it. Okay, so you're going to be friendly to everyone, because I always say, until that ring is on the finger, this person that you're interacting with is a brother or sister in Christ. That is it. The playing field is leveled. No one has singled anyone out. No one is dating. No one has stated intentions. So you're going to be friendly to everyone. And then that said, you're not going to say, too often women are friendly, but they're friendly I'll be honest, in a leading someone on kind of way, because they are looking for affirmation, or they're looking for special attention, or they're looking to be built up in a way that really they should be getting their identity clearly from other places, including God himself. And so you have to be that person who you're friendly, but it's kind of like, as you would be friendly to coworkers or to other people that you're engaging with in ministry, or it's just kind of it, and then you're not responsible for a way a guy takes that. If the guy is just like, oh my goodness, she actually said 3 sentences to me. What in the world does this mean? Well, then the guy needs to get a clue, and you might have to help him by being honest about that. But I think just the general friendliness, but not singling him out in a way of, again, women tend to do this, and guys love it, of asking him for advice or being his best friend or being his confidant. Don't give guys more connection than the level of commitment you have to them. And so if you're going to feed that and feed their ego and do that selectively, you are leading them on, and that is not helpful, nor is it healthy.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway here is you gave great advice, and it's a miracle that I'm married.
It's good for you that you are.
My poor wife.
It's funny, Brian, all the married people that I talk to who are just like, if something happens to my spouse, I'm just done.
It's over.
There is no way I can even engage in today's dating culture. I'm so out of it. So it is pretty funny. There's some classes that need to be taken. I don't know.
Maybe. But again, we're grateful to our friend Lisa Anderson, Director of Young Adults at Focus on the Family and host of The Boundless Show. Tell people how they can get more information and take a listen.
Absolutely. If they find us at boundless.org, they're going to see all the things, including our articles, our group blog, our connections to social, our weekly show, which also, as Brian said, is right here on Moody Cleveland. So check it out there. There's more of that at the site, but really be part of the conversation, because we consider it a community, and we want you to be part of the experience that we have growing into young adulthood and honoring God in the process. So it's all fun.
All right, boundless.org. Go check it out, boundless.org. Thanks again, Lisa Anderson.
Absolutely.
If you're 65 or older, you know this. Seeing your healthcare costs go up and up is frustrating. And maybe you were just notified that your Medicare costs are increasing again, or you're just tired of the massive deductibles. Well, here's some good news. There's a program that can really help with this. It's MediShare 65 Plus. It's an affordable, reliable alternative. You can choose any Medicare provider. You get telehealth access anytime you need it. And MediShare 65 Plus is a low-cost option for those with Medicare Parts A and B, and it fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. MediShare is a Christian healthcare community that aligns with your faith. People actually pray for you, they encourage you, and it's proven too. It's been going strong for over 30 years now. So call now. You can get one low monthly price for up to 10 years. You're not stuck with increasing costs. You can do something about this today. Call MediShare 65 Plus. Find out how much you can save. Call 833-59-SHARE. That's 833-59-SHARE. 833-59-SHARE.
Join the conversation by call or text at 440-546-2255. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Loving God with our hearts and our minds. It's Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios on Moody Radio Cleveland. And thank you to all of you who so generously supported us during our Spring Share campaign last week. You guys are the best. Thanks to Daniel and Raymond and Michael and Carol and Erica and Joseph and Lynette and Noreen and others who gave over the weekend, believe it or not. And we're just so grateful. There's still time to give. We didn't hit 100%, and that's okay. This is what the Lord's providing now, but over 2,243 of you already committed to give to this campaign.
Thank you.
And if you would consider it, you can still give this week. So it's the number, again, in case you don't know it, which would shock me deeply.
Yeah.
800-600-9624. 800-600-9624.
Just because we can say it in our sleep doesn't mean they can.
True. moodyradio.org. So it turns out Gen Z is way more pro-marriage than millennials and even than Xers.
Wow.
I want to talk about this trend more specifically, but I think we often forget that people don't necessarily know the breakdown of generations. So I want to be a little bit helpful in this area. And we take it for granted here in our team because we actually represent, when Lauren's here, she's out today, 4 generations.
Yep.
Ron, you're a boomer.
I am.
I'm technically an Xer, but barely.
Which makes
You're
you
still
an Xer.
And Lauren is firmly a millennial, and then Daria, you're Gen Z, but barely, I guess, right? Is that how it works?
I mean, I'm still Gen Z, even if I'm on the line.
So now, if you don't remember how this breaks down, baby boomers range between birth years 1946 and 1964.
Yep.
And you're barely an Xer, or a boomer then, I should say.
Yeah, I was born in 61. I'm 63, so the youngest boomers are 59.
So you're a young baby.
Yeah.
Okay, a Gen X, 1965 to 1980. I was born in 79.
Mm-hmm.
It's barely there. Millennials, also known as Gen Y, 1981 through 1996 birth years. And then Gen Z are those born 1997 or later, according to at least this breakdown. You see a year fluctuation here and there.
It's not or later because we're currently in Gen
Alpha.
Yeah,
to 2012.
There we go.
To 2012.
They're not still being born.
And you're in 1997.
Correct. So I'm right on the line.
Which is painful because I graduated high school that year.
I can do nothing about that.
You were born in 79 when I graduated from high school.
You never get over that, do you?
It's just a fact.
Yeah, it is a fact. Okay, so Gen Z apparently is really shifting their view of marriage. Now, I remember like probably 10 years ago when I first started here, a lot of talk in like the early 2000s and late, what do they call it? The aughts?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
About hookup culture. Do you remember this?
I was a little young, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was this thing among millennials that people, it's just like hookup culture. First date and then, parents, we're going to talk about this in more detail here in a moment, but then you hook up, as they say, on the street.
And even maybe not a date, maybe friends with benefits.
That's what they say, yes, as we're tiptoeing our way towards the issue here. Now, according to a new survey, though, 62% of Gen Z respondents, 62% is a solid majority, not just kinda. It's a solid majority, said that they and their friends don't engage in one-night stands.
Yeah. Gen Z is becoming a bit more celibate, and we are the generation that is saying, hey, we don't want certain scenes in our movies anymore.
Yeah, and only 23% admitted to casual hookups. So the hookup culture, as much as I remember Christian discussion about it, especially on programs I was a part of, was like, oh no, we're headed to a cliff. Pretty soon, the next generation after millennials, they're just going to have sex every day with everyone. That was kind of the oh no, help!
Yeah, but the way the trends were going, if you extrapolate they continue at that rate, eventually that would be the case.
That is correct, because it was pretty dramatic, because a whopping, compared to in 2004, 78% of young millennials said they had sex on a first date. 78%.
Oof.
No wonder we were freaked out.
Right.
That's wild.
I will say, before you get too excited, Gen Z kind of has the opposite problem. Obviously, fewer people having sex on a first date is great. But the problem is Gen Z is also not dating. So I think you're kind of comparing apples and oranges because they're just very different generations. Gen Z is lonely and not really going out at all.
So perhaps the numbers are inflated just because there's not even an opportunity.
Correct.
But I'm feeling better about my freakout self years ago when 78% of millennials had sex on the first date.
That's wild.
No wonder they call it hookup culture. That's, you would have been weird if you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Now, according to Relevant Magazine, they say it's not just about fewer hookups. Gen Z is also thinking more seriously about commitment. Only 21% believe marriage is irrelevant. A major shift from 20 years ago, where millennials, 39% thought marriage was irrelevant.
That actually really surprises me, because I thought, at least the older Gen Z, in my experience, they still tend to be part of the marriage is a social construct. It's just a piece of paper. A lot of us were quite traumatized by our parents, messy divorces. My parents are still together, but I know several people that don't want anything to do with dating or marriage because their parents' divorces were so messy.
Yeah, it's pretty stark to realize, many of my children's peers, their parents are either remarried or divorced and single.
Mm-hmm.
We are the weird ones. And that's sad, I think, in a culture. But
it is.
But when you see millennials, keep in mind, a lot of the parents, I'm an old guy for a dad now with my younger boys. I used to be the hip young parent with my daughter Grace, who's now in the military. Right. Now I'm like the old guy. A lot of the parents are millennials.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are. And no surprise if 78% were into hookup culture. I hate that phrase, but what else do you call it? I don't know what else to call that.
Yeah. The other names that come to mind are less proper to say in culture.
That's the most family-friendly term we've got.
Yeah.
So now, guys like Ron and I would be super optimistic about this. We'd be like, wow, there's less one-night stands. People are taking marriage more seriously. But you're a bit cynical on this, Daria.
I'm just cautious. I mean,
okay, fair.
I think
Yeah.
we've traded one bad thing in for another bad thing, whereas we're just completely antisocial. But the fact they want marriage is great. It's very encouraging. But I don't think Gen Z knows how to date. I don't think they know how to meet people.
Yeah, I'd like your reaction to this. Here's what Relevant Magazine wrote as an explanation. The pandemic played a huge role in reshaping how Gen Z thinks about relationships. Forced isolation put dating on hold at a formative time, leaving many to think more intentionally about what they actually want. Growing up in a world of rising divorce rates also made them more cautious about commitment, not to avoid it, but to get it right. Unlike previous generations who often felt societal pressure to marry, Gen Z seems to view it as a personal, meaningful choice.
And that's great.
Do you agree with that sentiment?
It depends on who you talk to. I do know some people that really desire marriage that are not currently married. So, yeah, I do think there are some Gen Z that feel that way, but I also think there's still a lot of them that are kind of put off by it. And more than that, you've got people that they don't know how to meet people even if they want to. I've got several people that immediately spring to mind that desperately want to get married, but they're just having trouble even getting a date.
Yeah, one person was quoted in the Times. They said that it's hard to be interested in casual dating because the apps are so awful.
Mm-hmm.
Dating apps, she said, if I was in a relationship right now, I'd want to stay in it longer because the grass definitely isn't always greener when it comes to dating nowadays.
Okay.
That's kind of a sad reason.
Yeah.
It used to be there's more fish in the sea.
Yeah.
Come on, Ron, get rid of that girl. There's more fish in the sea. It's a big sea.
Don't cry if she breaks up with you. It's her loss.
And now it's someone's like, boy, his relationship's not great, but it's better than a dating app.
Yeah.
And that's the problem is that's where most people are meeting prospective dates is online on these apps that are not meant to actually help you find someone that you have a genuine connection with.
But there's another kind of, I think, maybe hint that we're in the face of a pretty big cultural shift. Tell me what you think of this. On the issue of internet pornography, a phenomenon that has certainly increased over the years between two surveys, less than half, so less than 40%, said, in this case, half is 50, obviously, but in the study, it was less than 40% of Gen Z said they thought their friends commonly looked at pornography.
That's good.
What they're saying is even internet pornography consumption is dramatically down. 20 years ago, it was almost 60%.
No, so it's less than 40% think their friends are looking at porn or less than 40% are looking at porn, because that's a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Said they thought their friends commonly looked at it.
See, that's a big difference, though, because
it is a big difference.
Maybe Gen Z is still looking at porn. They're just being more secretive about it.
Or perhaps, I mean, is it possible that they're much more aware of the negative consequences, and so they're much less likely to participate?
Let's hope, because it has been getting some, the last couple of years, even among secular sources, are like, hey, this is actually quite bad for your brain. And I do think it's Gen Z that's been leading that charge. So maybe this is good, but I don't know that the numbers explicitly spell that out.
And there's been a number of TV characters who either outright or insinuate that they're watching internet porn. And, it's meant to be like, ha, 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 real funny. But, it comes out and it becomes part of the culture, whether you like it or not. The TV character traits infiltrate culture.
Yeah, I've seen multiple TV shows where, like, the girlfriend of a character just, like, accepts that the guy watches porn and she's completely unbothered by it. Or like, yeah, that's just normal. That's what guys do. And it's actually, yes, I've seen it in multiple TV shows.
Ew. Yeah, and as a wider lens on this, I had a really nerdy talk with a friend of mine the other day. I mean, I'm embarrassed to even bring this up.
Wow.
But as we look at society seems to usually be in some sort of downward spiral is how it feels today, especially now. I mean, we got some emails recently from people who are just like, I can't believe people behave this way. What's happening in our world today? But if you look at history in a wider lens, we're about due for a dramatic shift. Like every 200 to 300 years, society does something like, if you look at historical eras, how history classes are taught, right? You have ancient Rome, followed by the Middle Ages, followed by the Renaissance, followed by the Enlightenment. And these signify dramatic shifts so much that they get a label, that society does a huge flip and it's totally new. But we seem to forget in modern society that actually at some point we're not just going to keep declining back into caves or something. Like we could just be due for a dramatic cultural change.
I actually have been seeing some studies over the last 5 to 10 years predicting that Gen Z will be the most socially conservative, like morally conservative generation in like 100 plus years or something like that.
Wow. So that almost supports this theory, right? That if we're running in 200 to 300 year cycles, we could be due for a major shift. And maybe this is hinting at it. Now, okay, that was a super nerdy discussion I had with a friend, right? I mean, wow, what a loser. But what do you make of that, Ron?
It got me, especially Daria's comment. I thought, okay, 100 years ago would have been the Roaring 20s. Morality was not in force there. Well, but among the rich, but the poor, the farmers and stuff still had their morals.
But there was that cultural decline thing, even in the 20s, right? Flappers. People were like, oh, no, look at these women with their short hair and their dancing. Mm-hmm. What's next?
Right. And then
having sex with everyone on a first date?
Yeah. And then we shifted into stronger moral ethics, at least on a surface level, for the 40s, 50s. Then the 60s was a bit of a revolution and, free love and Woodstock and all of that.
But those are more, right. We tend to view it, though, in smaller chunks, right?
Yeah.
In decades, where history, in a wider sense, moves in centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And so, dare I say, even in 200 or 300 years, which I don't even know what you call that. 200, what is it? Century and then?
Millennia.
That's 1,000,
That's
right?
1,000, so.
But I mean, it's not just even like a shift from, well, we were kind of conservative to now we're just free love. No, this is like, suddenly we're in the dark ages, and then suddenly within a couple of decades, we're not anymore.
Yeah.
I'll say this too. We've talked about this a little bit on the show, but Gen Z is not drinking to the point that I've seen some studies about alcohol companies panicking and having to find new ways to market to my generation because we don't drink for the most part.
And so I'm not, see, that's, again, it's a theory.
Yeah.
But that supports the theory that we could be headed towards some sort of dramatic cultural shift. Does that make you nervous?
No.
Why not? Somebody else is going, ah!
These shifts have happened and will continue to happen. You just ride along with them and you adapt as you need to share the gospel with this new philosophy of culture, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and Jesus rides those waves very easily.
Yep, he can walk on the water.
Like if you think about all the eras of history that have come since his life, death, and resurrection. I mean, could you imagine being one of the last generations that when Rome fell? Oh no, we'll never recover from this. Yes. And then the Enlightenment comes and the Renaissance comes, and so I don't know. It makes me feel a little bit better, I guess.
I just think it is kind of funny because my generation was the one everyone was panicking about. But now more and more studies are coming out like, actually, this generation might be more open to the gospel. This generation might be more moral than our predecessors.
Yeah, it's like poor millennials were like the bottom of the barrel. Sorry, you guys. And Lauren's not here to refute that. But I think that was our fear, right? When we're obsessing over hookup culture before, our scare was you guys will just
be even worse.
Jump on the bandwagon and make it even worse. But it seems to be not the case at all.
It's possible.
Look at that. Hope for the future.
Yep. Like a yo-yo, it bottomed out with the millennials and it's coming back up.
We do hope that you all can get dates. But, I mean, if that keeps us from hookup culture, then maybe not. It's 7:49. We got more to come here on WCRF.
Experience an unforgettable night of theater. Fellowship for Performing Arts presents The Screwtape Letters, C.S. Lewis's powerful story of spiritual warfare brought to life on stage. Join Screwtape, a senior tempter in hell, as he schemes to capture a human soul in this vivid, humorous adaptation. Don't miss The Screwtape Letters, live in Cleveland for 2 performances only, April 26th at 4 and 8 p.m. at Playhouse Square. Visit screwtapeonstage.com today.
From Moody Publishers, a book designed to grow your faith, to really authentically grow your faith. In Fake Christianity, Jed Coppinger exposes the hidden traps of hypocrisy, prayerlessness, neglecting the Bible, gossip, and bitterness. Then, with a pastoral heart, Coppinger takes you through the teachings of Jesus, showing how to overcome inauthenticity and grow in true discipleship. Is it time to finally get serious about following Jesus? Fake Christianity is available right now at moodybooks.org.
Moody Radio is thankful for support from listeners and businesses like Deerfield Ag Services. They help in adaptation of new technologies and techniques of farm and business management. More information about Deerfield Ag and how they can help is at deerfieldagservices.com.
Bringing Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania closer to Christ, one conversation at a time. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
That's Passion on WCRF, where it's just about 7:56. And I want to take a quick moment here before we get to Ron's news and before we get to Todd Nettleson, a voice of the Martyrs, who's got some updates for us on the persecuted church. To remind you of two things. One of them, David Mullane from Yost Insurance is coming from 8:30 to 9 to talk about Medicare. If you have Medicare questions, that's your time for me to squeeze in a couple. He wants to address a lot of fears people have right now tied to Medicare. So we'll address that with him. But also, if you have a Medicare question, you can text those in right now, 440-546-2255. You can text them in at 440-546-2255. But I do want to take a quick moment and thank you from the bottom, middle, and top of my heart.
The whole thing.
And all of Ron's, no question, and Daria's. Thank you for your support during our Spring Share campaign.
Yes, sir.
We heard some wonderful comments and gifts over the weekend. Raymond, when he gave for the very first time from Menor, thank you, Raymond, for your first-time gift. He said, I listen to Moody Radio on my ride to and from work Monday to Friday, and I enjoy the content and message of your station. I go into my day and exit my day with a positive attitude and sometimes challenging mindset. I know without a doubt that it has been the help of my relationship with God, and thank you so much.
Right.
For enhancing that. So,
well, thank you, Raymond. In fact, if you'd be so kind to indulge me.
Oh, please. Ooh, we're pretty good, you three. Wow.
I feel better now.
Yeah, boy, we're pretty good at harmonizing, aren't we, Daria?
Sure are.
That wasn't really us, in case you didn't know, but I think you knew.
People are smart.
And Daria, we should tell people, like, Raymond was a first-time giver, so there's something exceptionally special that she's not here, but Lauren is overwhelmed by this gift, and she wishes she had one.
She is. So first-time givers get an excerpt from the Moody Bible Commentary. I just got my full Moody Bible Commentary. It's fantastic, but you get an excerpt. It's the entirety of the 4 Gospels, and that is yours, a gift of any amount for being a first-time giver. So Raymond and Menor gets that. Noreen and Wyndham get that for being first-time givers. Thanks so much.
Wyndham's in my neck of the woods, by the way.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Way to go, Noreen. Any Akron gifts recently? Yeah, Erica in Akron. Look at that. Medina?
Oh, Medina.
I'm scrolling. Nope. Okay, Medina, wake up. Any gift of any amount, you will get a book from Carl Clausen from Moody Publishers called Killing Sin, Conquering the One Thing That's Defeating You. This is a great resource for those, really, you're trying to shake that sin that seems to be lurking all over the place, okay? So consider that. Our friend Dr. Rydelnik endorsed this book, which he doesn't do very often.
Wow.
And if you want a author who's passionate about what he does, Carl Clausen is, like, you look up passion in the dictionary. His picture's
right
there. This is a guy who did the Iditarod race. You can't
He was like
be
19 when he did it.
Yeah, you can't be lazy and do that. So this man, he's a pastor, he's a radio host, he's an author, and he is passionate about killing sin.
So consider a gift of any amount to get that resource. It's not too late. 2,243 of you already committed to donating to this ministry, this listener-supported ministry. Thank you for that. We do have room for more and would be grateful for more if you've got it. 800-600-9624. 800-600-9624. moodyradio.org. You can also text the word share to 800-600-9624. Coming up here after Ron's news and today's More Ron moment, our friend Todd Nettleson, host of Voice of the Martyrs Radio, will share with us a bit about updates from the persecuted church.
There's joy in the journey. It's Mornings with Brian from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Good morning from Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
A federal judge in Boston has ordered a hearing today on the decision by U.S. Customs agents at Logan Airport to deport a Rhode Island doctor. It's 8 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. Judge Leo Sorokin has demanded to know why Dr. Rasha Alawiya was deported from Boston to Lebanon on Friday with a valid visa. The doctor was deported despite the judge's order specifically blocking her from being removed from the country. Today is St. Patrick's Day, and thousands of Cleveland residents will be celebrating with the annual St. Patrick's Day Parade. The parade will step off at 1:04 p.m. from the intersection of Superior and East 18th Street. And Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is urging President Trump to move NASA's headquarters to Cleveland. The NASA HQ is currently based in Washington at a location whose lease expires in 2028. In sports, the Cavs lost to the Magic 108-103. Here's our Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Cloudy this morning, then clearing. Much cooler with highs in the lower 40s. And at last check, flurries have returned to Cleveland, 31 degrees. Akron flurries and 30 degrees. And in Ashtabula, freezing rain, and the temperature is 29.
It's time for your moron moment.
March Madness begins this week, and with it comes the potential for the economy to lose billions of dollars. That's according to a recent survey by Action Network that predicts March Madness could cause the U.S. economy to see roughly $20 billion in lost productivity. That lost productivity can come in a number of forms, from simply being distracted while on the clock to the 40% of survey respondents who admitted to calling in sick in order to watch a game. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:03. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine studio, it's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
For your spirit, soul, and body, it's Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studios. Good morning from Moody Radio Cleveland, and thanks again for all of your support last week during our Share campaign. Still time to give, 800-600-9624 and moodyradio.org. We love to keep you updated every so often on the persecuted church, as it's so important for us to keep them in prayer. So we have our friend Todd Nettleson back, and he's here today. Again, he's host of Voice of the Martyrs Radio. Welcome back, brother.
Thanks so much. Good morning.
So let's start in Syria. There's a lot of question about what's going on there for believers. What have you heard?
There is a lot of question about what is going on, and I have many of those questions too. Right now, what we know is that the government is targeting the Alawite community, which is a Shia Muslim minority group. That's the group that President Bashar al-Assad was part of, the former president there. That's most of the violence. However, we do know that in the midst of that violence, Christians have been killed. I talked to our Syria team last week, and they did not know of anyone at that point who had been killed specifically because they were a Christian, as in, hey, they asked them, are you a Christian? Or they went into a church. They simply had been caught up in this sort of crossfire of this battle that's going on between the government and the Alawites. The other thing that happened last week was the new president of Syria, a former leader of ISIS and Al-Qaeda, a man who a year ago had a $10 million bounty on his head from the U.S. government because he was considered a terrorist. He signed a constitution last week that is supposed to allow for 5 years and then a transition into a new government. One of the things, or a couple of things, the Constitution said, it said the president of Syria will be a Muslim. There is no option for any minority religious group to have the presidency. The other thing it says is that Islamic law is the main source of legislation. So Islamic law will be the foundation of all of the legislation, all of the laws passed under this new constitution. So if you're a Christian in Syria right now, you see the violence, you see what the Constitution says. It's hard to be optimistic about what it's going to look like for Christians in the coming months and years.
Now, is it safe to assume the persecution against that minority Muslim group is kind of like retribution for the Bashar al-Assad regime?
A lot of it is, yes, retribution. There is a sense of, oh, you're loyal to the former president, therefore you're against us, and so we are going to attack you. And there has been a lot of back and forth, a lot of really violent, awful things that have happened even in the last 10 days in the course of that sort of retribution battle.
It's a bit of a head scratcher that such a radical terrorist could end up as the new president of that country. I don't get it. I don't know if you've figured this out yet. I know it's a bit outside of your scope of expertise, but I'm just curious.
Well, he has said since December, since taking over, he has said all the right things to the international community. You know, we want a free Syria. We want democracy. We want a place for all of the religions, all of the religious minorities. So he has said all the right things to the outside world. Now, we had 2 weekends ago a Syrian Christian on Voice of the Martyrs Radio, and he said what the pastors in Syria are hearing from the government and its troops are, just wait. Once we get our feet on the ground, once we get established, then we'll take care of the Christians. So what he's telling the rest of the world is very different from what pastors in Syria are hearing. And I think, frankly, we wanted peace in Syria so bad that we were ready to believe his promises, even if they didn't hold a lot of water.
It's a sad one, to be honest, after so many years of civil war, that this is what's next. You know?
Yeah.
How tragic.
If you're a Christian in Syria right now, like I say, it is very hard to feel encouraged about what's coming. And it's like you say, it's been terrible for years. And now it's like, wait, it's going to get worse. I thought this was supposed to be peace.
Now, shifting our attention to China, you've got an update on a Chinese pastor. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is a little piece of good news. A lot of bad news in Syria right now, but a little piece of good news. A pastor in China, Pastor Shen Shaochun, was released from prison at the end of last year. He actually was released early. He had been sentenced to 7 years in prison. He ended up serving 6 years and 3 months of that 7-year sentence. His charge was organizing illegal border crossings. So he was working along the border with Burma. He was involved in evangelism work and helping others, like basically helping recruit young people to go and be a part of his mission. And so they accused him of sort of smuggling those young people across the border to be involved in that mission activity. The challenge is he had a lot of health problems in prison. In fact, he apparently lost his vision while he was in prison. So he's going to require some weeks and months of recovery. But like I say, the good news is he is out of prison and back with his family.
So if we don't often hear about people released from prison, Christians in China, early. Is this primarily due to his health? What would you attribute this to?
It's hard to know that for sure, but that would be my guess. Yes, is that it's primarily due to his health. If he's really in bad shape, certainly they would rather him die with his family outside than die in prison, where the people would ask questions and like, how could you let this happen? So from a PR standpoint, if he is close to death, and I don't know, I know he's had serious health concerns. I don't know if they are fatal. But if he were to die, they certainly would prefer him not to be in prison where they have to sort of have some accounting of that.
Now, if we just spread out across the Muslim world, we're still in the midst of Ramadan, right? What can you share with us about that?
Yeah, this is such an important time for us as Christians to be praying for Muslims around the world. They are seeking Allah's favor. When they die and go to heaven, they want to be able to tell Allah, boy, during Ramadan, I fasted. I was so faithful about fasting. Every day during Ramadan, from sun up to sundown, I fasted. I did all the prayers. I did everything right. Let me into paradise. So they are thinking about Allah. They're thinking about eternity. They're thinking about spiritual things during this month of fasting. And it's such a key time for us to pray. We have heard so many stories over the years of people meeting Jesus during Ramadan, having a dream or a vision or some other way that God used Ramadan to sort of point them, hey, you're thinking spiritual thoughts. Let me introduce you to the way, the truth, and the life, the ultimate answer to your spiritual questions. And so I just encourage our listeners during this month, pray for God to move in the Muslim world.
Yeah, and I have a friend who works in ministry to a Muslim community in our country, and he actually makes a practice of hosting a sundown feast.
Yes,
for his Muslim neighbors. You must love that kind of thing in light of what you're saying.
I do. It makes me smile just to hear the story. And it's such a great way to reach out, hosting that feast, and even just asking questions. Oh, it's Ramadan. Tell me about that. What does that mean to you? What are you looking for during this month? And allowing that to be an entry point. One of the things we hear again and again from gospel workers working among Muslims, and this includes working among Muslims in America, is everything is built out of relationships. If you think you're just going to sit down with them and sort of in 10 minutes walk them through the Romans road and they're just going to be like, yes, that's great. If they don't even know you, that's probably not. Now, God can work in amazing ways. I don't want to discount that at all, but everything grows out of relationships and cups of coffee and cups of tea and conversations and getting the families together. And so Ramadan can be a key part of that.
Think about doing those kind of strategies. I love it, Todd. That kind of warm welcome is what we should be doing, not displaying fear of those who are Muslims. So thank you for that.
Amen.
Now, Voice of the Martyrs Radio, you've got a big episode coming up?
Yeah, we've got a big episode. Some of our listeners heard it if they were up very early yesterday morning. If you did not hear it, though, go to vomradio.net, look for VOM Radio in whatever podcast app you use. We had Nick and Ruth Ripken. Nick is the author of The Insanity of God. They have an absolutely amazing story of how God called them to ministry, and they suffered greatly. They were in Malawi. They got so sick they had to leave. They then started working with Somalis and in Somalia, and many of their Christian friends were killed. Then their own son died suddenly of an asthma attack, and they really kind of reached out and hitting rock bottom said, God, are you really for the hard places? And that sent them on a quest. And they went literally around the world, meeting persecuted Christians, sitting at their feet and saying, hey, how do you serve the Lord when it's so hard, when nothing is going right? I would just so encourage people to listen to the conversation. And if you haven't read The Insanity of God, it is an absolutely must-read book.
So if folks want to catch that episode, how do they find it again?
vomradio.net, or wherever you listen to podcasts, just search for VOM Radio or the Voice of the Martyrs.
And then to get regular updates on the persecuted church, talk about the website for Voice of the Martyrs.
Persecution.com. It's an easy one to remember, persecution.com. Right at the top of the page, there's a button that says free magazine. Just click on that. Give us your name and address. We would love to send you every month our free magazine, the stories of persecuted Christians, the places where they are persecuted, the ways that you can pray for them every month for free in the VO magazine. Again, persecution.com.
And one more reminder, I can't resist the chance for you to remind us about your Moody Publishers book. Tell us about the book you published recently.
The book is called When Faith is Forbidden, 40 Days on the Front Lines with Persecuted Christians. Actually, this month is its birthday, so we should be celebrating. So, 40 stories from persecuted Christians that I have met in my 20-plus years at VOM. And the idea is you come with me on a trip. Let's go on a trip together. Let's every day sit down with a persecuted Christian for 40 days. And my promise is to you as a reader, on day 41, your faith will look different, because there's no way that you can hang out with these heroes of the faith and not be impacted by their stories.
How can folks find the book?
Persecution.com.
All right. Again, persecution.com is the place to go. Todd Nettleson has been our guest from Voice of the Martyrs and the host of the Voice of the Martyrs radio program. Thanks again, brother. Always enjoy getting caught up with you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
It's 8:18. Coming up here in about 10 minutes, our friend David Mullane from Yost Insurance will be talking about Medicare. And he'd be happy to take your Medicare questions. I know you've got them, because who understands that thing? David. That's it. So you can text in 440-546-2255, 440-546-2255. I've got a grab bag of news stories here coming up in just a minute.
You know, a lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money. But what if you could get both? Why not? Especially when it comes to health care, and that is Medicare. You get both. Many families save $500 a month with Medicare, and that's huge. But it's also true that people wind up way more satisfied, too. And we know this from research of members. There's a lot they like about Medicare, but especially they love being part of something they believe in. And Medicare works, too. It has for more than 30 years. There are hundreds of thousands of members who love having telehealth if they need it. They love the huge PPO network. So, yeah, really, you could save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or you're part of the gig economy or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price in 2 minutes. Here's the number. Call 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Today, there is a disciple-making church planting movement that's taken root in 40 countries around the world. It's called the Timothy Initiative, and its mission is to see a healthy church planted in every village, everywhere. Since 2007, over 200,000 churches have been planted through the work of the Timothy Initiative, but there's more work to be done. Take your place in the Timothy Initiative. Go to ttiglobal.org.
Helping you take the next step in your walk with Jesus. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
8:23 on WCRF. Again, our friend David Mullane from Yost Insurance will be here in just about 10 minutes to answer your Medicare questions. We've got one or two in the hopper here. We have some topics to discuss, of course, but I want to squeeze in a few questions if you have them. 440-546-2255. 440-546-2255. But there's another number to remember as well, because we are so grateful for the 2,243 people who support this ministry and committed to do so in the next year. Thank you so much. Our share campaign last week was such a blast. Love hearing your comments and all of you who gave. We just can't thank you enough. We didn't quite reach the goal, but there's still time. We usually keep things open this week, so we're doing that again. As those of you maybe were out of town last week, or maybe you've reconsidered and can do a monthly gift as opposed to a one-time gift. Super easy to get those in. 800-600-9624. 800-600-9624, or go online to moodyradio.org, moodyradio.org, or you can text the word share to 800-600-9624. Thanks to people like Daniel and Raymond and Michael and Carol and Erica and Joseph and Lynette, who were so kind to donate. Thanks. Think about it. First one here, I'm bringing it up on the air because I brought it up off the air, and Daria thought I was a total loser for this. I am so sad that May 5th is just around the corner. And May 5th, Daria's got a funny look on her face. It's the last day where you can Skype somebody.
Oh, yes.
You did not bring this up.
Yeah, I did. You were like, oh, no one even uses that anymore. I love Skype.
Oh, yeah, that was last week. I did not sound like that, though.
You did? I could have sworn you did. No, but remember, Ron, back in 2003, suddenly they launched us into the future.
Yeah.
We were making video calls, Ron.
Yeah, before Zoom, before FaceTime, before any of that, there was Skype.
It's like, look at us now. We're on Back to the Future Part 2, video calls.
Yes.
Daria, it was a big deal. You were like 6 months old, but it was a big deal. It changed everything.
Yeah, I know.
They're shutting it down. Shouldn't they just keep it up for nostalgia's sake?
You can't run a business on nostalgia.
But it's Microsoft. They've
Clearly
got other
they
things.
can't, because they can't compete with Zoom and FaceTime. And even Facebook Messenger is receiving a resurgence.
Yeah, well, I guess they want you to switch to Teams.
Right. And what we've found is that Teams is bloated, is the technical term, but it uses up a lot more computer space and power.
Yeah.
So a simple Skype call, was nice. You start loading Teams and then you can't do anything else. So we're hoping they come up either with an alternative like Teams Viewer or Teams Lite or
Teams
something.
Skype?
Yeah. Or it will just move on to something else, because doing a video Teams meeting locks you into not doing much else on your computer.
And I found Teams is classic Microsoft, where somebody called a meeting and they go, hey, we should think about making this user-friendly. And somebody was like, nah, you don't need to do that.
Laugh.
And they laugh and meeting adjourned.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like Teams.
It's hard to figure out.
I've never liked Teams. I've had to use it a couple different jobs. I've never liked it.
Apple, meanwhile, is like, hey, here's our new device. And you go, oh, look, I can use it now. Thanks. I figured it out just by looking at it.
But wait, it's a week later and there's an update.
And your thing is obsolete now.
Yeah. Buy another one, please, for thousands. Okay, I'm not that sad anymore now, but I'm going to grieve this, Daria.
You're allowed to grieve.
I know. So next one, cheer for this. It's St. Patrick's Day, so Krispy Kreme's doing something.
Are they doing the green donuts again?
This year they're not green. They've got special donuts that are apparently dipped in caramel buttercream and gold glitter sprinkles.
Yes,
okay, but I want the green donuts.
I know. When you don't do green, is it even St. Patrick's Day?
Okay, can we do green with the gold glitter?
That's what I thought.
Like, we don't need to change the whole formula. Just give me green donuts with gold glitter.
But they've made up for it with the Pot of Gold pass they're giving away. They're giving away the Pot of Gold pass.
And that is?
It's obviously a random customer on March 17th is going to get free donuts for a year.
Okay, but it's not going to be me. I just want a green donut.
I think each store gives one away.
It's still not going to be me. I just want a singular green donut. I don't need donuts for a year.
Well, why don't you go in there and complain and then see if they'll give you a pot of gold. Here's your pot of gold, lass. That's a pretty good Irish accent for me.
That is not bad at all.
Can you do one? Daria?
No.
They're always taking me pot of gold. Top of the morning to ya.
That's interesting because a year's worth of donuts for me could be a whole lot of donuts.
Do they know what they're doing?
Right.
Yeah. Whose definition of a year's worth of donuts is it?
It's probably 365 donuts.
Or maybe it's like a box a week, like a dozen donuts on a
like that.
Saturday or something like that.
Ron's going to go in and complain about the rules.
Yeah. The donuts better come with each dozen gives you a shot of insulin or something. I will definitely have the diabetes flare up.
You just want to go sit at the end of the assembly line and just eat.
Yes. Like, remember the I Love Lucy where she was in the chocolate factory and it was coming by faster than she could package it, so she'd throw one in her mouth? That'd be me.
People going, I'd like a dozen donuts. I'm sorry you can't. Ron's here right now.
Yes.
Ron is on the conveyor belt. He is under the glaze.
He won his pot of gold. Okay, next one. Here's a wild one for you. Okay, Gen Z and millennials, by the time they hit 30, 25% say they feel burned out.
Wow, that's early.
Now, midlife is technically like when you hit your crisis is 42 years old, but apparently for Gen Z and millennials, it's like 25.
I did have a bit of a crisis at 25.
What? What was yours about?
I don't remember. It's just like, oh, I'm not, a kid anymore. It was 25 was actually hard for me.
1 in 4 of them having a midlife crisis at 25. That's not totally an us problem, Daria. That's partly like you guys need to just like chill out a little bit.
We do. We've got a lot coming at us though. I blame social media. Our brains are overwhelmed. We can't handle things.
Could be.
Wow. Burned out at 30.
I'm feeling the burnout now at 46. I was talking to a friend of mine that's 10 years older than me yesterday, like, hey, help me out here. I'm really tired. He's like, I was going to ask you that question. Maybe you can help me out. I was like, oh, great. Let's go take a nap. Final story I have for you. Did you hear the news about Southwest Airlines?
I'm not sure I did.
They used to be hey, we're not going to charge you for baggage. Those other mean people do that.
Don't tell me.
Southwest Airlines announced Tuesday last week it would begin charging most customers for checked bags on May 28th.
No. Stop it right now.
Unless you're high loyalty status, in which you'll get 2 bags for free still.
That was the only reason I flew with them.
Yeah.
Who am I going to fly with now?
And I think they're changing their line up here, you cattle, and get on the plane. Pick your seat. I don't think they're doing that anymore. And now there are no free bags. So Amtrak thought it was funny by going online and saying, I guess we're the only ones left doing free bags.
Well, good for them.
Amtrak is also more expensive than a plane ticket.
I know.
I've looked into it. It's like you're telling me it takes me 24 hours to get to my destination and you're going to charge me 3 times as much.
Yeah, I've wanted to do it. A few times I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to show these airlines and their big prices. Amtrak, here I come, except it's more.
Right. Yeah, way more for way less.
Although, have you ever ridden it?
No.
I don't think I have.
I had one time, we had friends visiting us in Chicago years ago with little kids, and they were simple, nice people from Minnesota that left their doors unlocked and the purse on the dashboard.
Oh, no.
In downtown Chicago.
Mm-mm.
When they went back to their car a few hours later, it was gone. Because, of course, the keys were in the purse, so the person just took, turns it on and drove away. So my wife drove them home with the kids, and later that weekend I went to meet them, and I took Amtrak.
Okay.
And you guys, a lot of legroom.
Mm-hmm.
Very quiet. It took a little longer than driving, but it was nice.
My parents did Amtrak out to, I think it was Utah last year. They had a completely different experience. They said it was awful.
Oh, no. Free bags, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than Southwest.
I think I'd like it. You could listen to podcast or watch some video you had downloaded or read a book. Just rotate among all your media desires. Or you could spend the entire time in prayer if you were so inclined.
Oh, wow, Ron. Or you could just pretend it's the old days.
Look out the window.
Call your parents Ma and Pa,
Yeah.
Look out the window and, okay.
I'm on the train to Dodge City.
Better than the stagecoach.
Yes.
Okay, it's 8:32. We're going to get to a quick break, and when we come back, our friend David Mullane from Yost Insurance is going to talk to us a bit about all the fear and anxiety he's hearing from people about Medicare lately. He'll address those concerns, and we have time for your questions if you have them. But you got to get them in right now by call or text. 440-546-2255.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to support of listeners and Pinnacle Peak Pictures.
There's no greater love.
From Pinnacle Peak Pictures comes The Last Supper, coming to theaters starting March 14th. A biblical journey that brings to life the ultimate act of love and sacrifice as seen through the eyes of those who walked alongside Jesus. The Last Supper, rated PG-13. Some material may be inappropriate for children under 13. In theaters starting March 14th.
Ever wondered if there's a way for Christians to meet their healthcare costs affordably and efficiently? A biblical lifestyle alternative to traditional healthcare options? The answer is Christian Healthcare Ministries. They've enabled believers to live out their faith while embracing a voluntary health cost ministry for over 40 years. It all starts with a visit to chministries.org/Moody to see how CHM meets values and healthcare costs. Get more information and have your questions answered at chministries.org/Moody.
Good morning, Cleveland. Thanks for choosing us to help you start your day. It's Mornings with Brian.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
.37, it's Mornings with Brian, live from the North Coast Family Foundation sponsored studio, where it's your faith or your health. You don't have to journey alone. Again, at North Coast Family Foundation. This is the Mornings with Brian team. We're so grateful for your financial support and share last week. Thank you so much. Lauren's out today, but I know if she were here, she'd be excited about that gift for new donors. She's especially excited about the texture of the cover.
Yes.
She said it was very soft.
Soft paper, and yet sturdy. You know, it's a mystery. You'd have to be a new donor to understand. So get your gift in before it's too late, 800-600-9624. Joining us now, a longtime friend of the show now. He's not old, but he's been around for a long time. And he's the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships and Medicare at Yost Insurance. Welcome back, David Mullane.
Hey, thanks, Brian. And I am old, for the record. That conversation you guys had earlier about the generations, you pointed out to me that I'm at the tail end of Gen X as well.
So what year were you born, tough guy?
I was born in 77, the great year of 77.
Wow, you are old. I'm 79, bro. You're like, man, way older. Are you okay? You feel tired?
I do. I never got hurt from sleeping until I turned 40, but it's downhill from there.
Bro.
Oh, yeah.
We should hold a meeting about this just to comfort each other. It's a thing.
We really should. And Ron's over there in the corner laughing at us right now.
It's only just begun.
Meanwhile, Daria is like, ha, you old people. I'm 27. I can rent a car now, you know.
That's a new development in my life.
I know. It's pretty exciting. But, you know, it's not exciting. A lot of people are stressed out about Medicare. Now, I would say if you have Medicare questions, he's our guy to ask. This is David Mullane again. You can text or call those in 440-546-2255. I bet you're hearing a lot of anxious people, though.
Yeah, we really are. And this is not atypical. Whenever we have a change in president, presidential administration, all these different department heads, our clients come in with a lot of anxiety. And they ask us, hey, what do you think is going to happen? And the truthful answer is we don't really know. So what we can look at is what's happened previously. And the important thing for those that have Medicare and even Medicaid to keep in mind is it is a political football for a reason. There's a good reason that both parties, and if you tune into national news, whatever flavor of national news you turn into, there's a big reason that they bring it up the way that they do, because it commands so much attention from a very, very specific group of people in both cases. But if you look historically, our government has not done a good job at addressing the needed changes in either of those programs to keep them financially solvent for the long term, because it is so volatile. No politician wants to be tied to saying, I was the one who cut your Medicare benefits, or I was the one who cut your Medicaid benefits. So with that, we just want to ease tension. That's why it's great that we can come on your program and talk to your listeners. We'll bring those updates, just like Rob will with Social Security, because people are anxious about that as well right now.
Now, with that in mind, any major changes to Medicare in the last month?
No, and there isn't going to be. And that's the thing. If we're going to change a massive behemoth like Medicare and Medicaid, it's going to take time to do that. And so what generally happens, where we see changes to the federal Medicare program, every year these federal entities like the Department of Education, like Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Service, they put out proposed changes, usually in the late fall. Those changes undergo hearings. And then in the mid to late spring, we're getting close to the time when this happens, they'll roll out something called the final rule, where they tell us, what to expect from a change standpoint going into the upcoming enrollment season, which for us is in the fall. But we're not hearing, we've looked at some of those proposals. We're not seeing anything dramatic at this point, but it is the government. So certainly things could change, but from what we're seeing, the changes are very minor. Some are better. We don't know anything about what Medicare premiums are going to do, and we will not know that information until really in the fall. But as far as changes to the program itself, those that are on the proposed list do not seem that dramatic at this point.
So what are some of the things you're seeing on the proposed list? Or is it not even worth discussing those because we don't know they're going to happen?
Most of them are things that the average Medicare recipient wouldn't even feel or understand. So a lot of the changes that our government has made to Medicare funding in particular over the last 5 years don't really necessarily affect the Medicare recipient. At least they don't know that it does. They've done things like, unfortunately, cut reimbursement to physicians. And that's happened almost every year for the last 5 years. And so you have doctors and medical professionals trying to scramble to adjust to a decreasing budget for the services that they provide to their clients or to their patients rather than an increasing budget. And that goes contrary to the increases that we've experienced in cost, right? Inflation has gone up and reimbursement in many cases to the medical profession has gone down. So a lot of things that change in Medicare don't directly come to the consumer, but they might feel that on the back end at certain points.
Can you remind us as well, what were some of the changes that were put into effect this year?
Yeah, the big one, and for many of our clients, it was a good one, was they capped out-of-pocket expenditures for prescription medications. And the key word here is covered prescription medications to $2,000 for the whole 12-month year. And so previously, there really wasn't a cap. You sort of went through all these different stages that the government had in place, and you might pay different costs throughout the year. Now that's limited at $2,000. And that is one of the changes that we're seeing in the proposal. And I'm going to say that real deliberately. It's just a proposal at this point. If I recall, it was about a $51 increase to that limit is what they're proposing. So like $2,051. So again, that was a big change for 2025. But if this proposed change goes through, it might be a $50 increase to that or so.
And that's not so bad. So we don't have to worry about that.
No, it's not. And, like we said just a few minutes ago, the great thing about coming to your station here is we can update listeners as these changes come throughout the year to sort of take away that big shock if there is anything major that's going to happen that affects them January 1st of 2026.
So Medicare recipients, it sounds like you're saying, can breathe easy. You all at Yost Insurance are not running in the hall screaming.
Yeah, I think that's important for us to do just as believers in general. Yeah. Whenever we are putting our care or something that we need in life in the hands of the government, we have to own the fact that there's going to be volatility there. And so I think what we can do collectively here is bring real-time, down the middle, honest information without some of the, hyperbolic rhetoric that our national media puts out there. And we just want to make sure that we actually update people on changes when they're available, but we don't get people all worked up until that is actually a need, right? Mm-hmm. And we want to resort back to casting our cares and our anxieties on him, right? Our God. We don't want to go through every minute of life, every minute of the year worried about Medicare when there might not actually be substantial changes. There might, but we'll deal with that with you when that comes. So we just don't want people running around in panic, to use your example, until we have a reason to, right?
That's exactly right. Well put. Again, this is our friend David Mullane from Yost Insurance Agency, where he is Vice President of Strategic Partnerships in Medicare. We have a couple of Medicare questions we're going to get to in just a minute, but still time for yours by call or text. 440-546-2255. Again, 440-546-2255.
Moody Radio Cleveland is on the air thanks to support of listeners and Naylor Neutralawn and Landscape, serving the greater Cleveland area since 1973. More information about Naylor Neutralawn and Landscape is at nnlawn.com.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market, supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
We'd love to invite you to visit Moody's campus in the heart of downtown Chicago for Experience Moody, our campus visit day, March 28th, April 25th, or May 2nd. You'll experience life as a Moody student by attending class, meeting with students and advisors, and exploring our world-class city. We're excited to welcome you to learn more about whether Moody is right for you or your student. Register for Experience Moody at moody.edu/Experience Moody.
Hey there, I'm Brant Hansen, and they call this the best kept secret in the world, and it needs to not be a secret anymore. It's the work of Cure International Children's Hospitals, 8 top-notch surgical hospitals healing kids in the name of Jesus, and this is the best part, openly, brilliantly sharing the gospel with the kids and their families as they heal. 18,000 surgeries last year, 40,000 plus people making decisions for Christ. This should not be a secret. Check it out for yourself. You'll see what I mean. Cure.org/Moody. Cure.org/Moody.
Your day is starting off strong with Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
And it really is on the way. This is Mornings with Brian, WCRF. Our friend David Mullane from Yost Insurance here to answer your Medicare questions. We had a bunch come in by text. You ready, David?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Daria, what's the first one?
My husband will be 65 in July. We currently carry his insurance and wish to continue it versus Medicare. Someone told us we must enroll for Medicare even though we don't need that insurance at this time. Is that correct? If not, where and how do we begin the enrollment process?
Yeah, that answer to that question is it's probably not correct. Most employer plans meet the federal guidelines for credible coverage. And as long as they meet those guidelines, you can continue on that insurance past your age in at 65 until you lose that coverage, at which point you will get a special enrollment period and you won't have any late enrollment penalties. But the one thing that you might want to do is still have that meeting with a live local broker and just do a plan comparison and a cost comparison. Make sure that your current plan isn't costing you more either in premium or in out-of-pocket benefits than what is available to you through Medicare at this point in life. So that would be my recommendation for that situation.
All right.
How would a lump sum pension payment affect Medicare? I'm 65 and currently unemployed. I am retired from OPERS.
Very, very good question, and it might. So if you take a lump sum from a pension or any taxable income source, the way that your Medicare Part B premium is factored is based on your income from 2 years ago. So the government has a 2-year look back. We're in 2025 now. They're going to look at your 2023 modified adjusted gross income. and that's what's going to determine your Part B Medicare premium. So if you take that lump sum and it is taxable, it could push you up 2 years from now with that Medicare Part B premium. And again, this is another thing that you would want to take to that live local agent because there's an appeal process. Given the fact that we have this 2-year look back, if you have this one-time disbursement, there's some paperwork that we can fill out. You're still probably going to have higher premiums for a period of time. But with this appeal process, we can make sure that you only have it for the mandatory required amount of time.
Okay.
I have an N supplemental plan for Medicare. It's up to $169 a month. Prescription coverage is $36 a month out of Social Security. I'm 80 and it went up due to age. My out-of-pocket expenses are only $1,200 a year, leaving only copays. Is this better overall if I can afford this?
So what this caller has is a Medicare supplement plan. And Plan N is a pretty comprehensive supplement plan. There's some copays that you have to pay if you go to certain providers, like your doctor or the emergency room, things like that. But it still is very comprehensive coverage. Depending on the carrier that you have, there might be some extra benefits in there. But as long as you have that supplement plan, generally speaking, you can go to any doctor who accepts Medicare. And so you don't have to worry about the network. You don't have a lot of copays to handle, as you said, when you referenced your out-of-pocket. But here's where I would draw the line for somebody who is 80 and who has premium going out every month. Again, we need to look at your budget and make sure that you're not overspending on premium to the point where you're sacrificing the areas that you shouldn't. I've come across clients, particularly 80 and older, who are taking half their medications because they can't afford them, or who are not eating properly because they're spending money on all their different bills, including Medicare premium. So we train our agents to look at your finances carefully and to make sure that they're taking that into consideration when they're advising you, because we want you to be able to live the way that you should be able to live and take the medications that you need if you indeed have them. So that's a long answer to that question, but we just want to make sure we take really good care of people. And, you know, Brian and Daria, we have a lot of clients who live alone. They don't have any family in the area. Maybe they have no existing living family members. So we really take that onus on ourselves to make sure that we're taking really good care of people.
I love that, and that's why it's probably good for this individual to meet with somebody to make sure they're not overspending. That's a great point. We got time for maybe one or two more questions. What's next, Daria?
I'm 61 and pay $100 a month through the healthcare marketplace for health insurance. I thought Medicare was supposed to help people with health insurance. Why is it going to cost me more for Medicare when I stop working?
You know, it just depends on your situation. Some people have such good employer plans that maybe they've never paid anything out of pocket their entire life for premium. Or maybe that employer picked up 90% of their premium and they picked up 10%. But just like Social Security, Medicare is a federal program. As we said a few moments ago, there's levels of cost for Part B depending on your income. And when you go into retirement, for some people, it is going to cost you more than it has in your working years. But for the vast majority of individuals, it's going to probably be about the same, or maybe in some cases even a little bit better. So it just depends on your situation. I know that's not a great answer to the person who has to pay more, but that's just kind of how it's set up. It is a federal program, and they have levels that they've established, and they're pretty long-standing levels of premium payment based on that income level.
Okay, we got time for one more, David. Let's do it.
Is there a specific part of Medicare that will help with assisted living costs?
Not really. So this is that big retirement planning piece that we all need to take a good hard look at. So if we are going to go and look at our budget and do financial planning, I know you guys have Dave on, who is really well versed in this and can help people have a really good retirement plan. We want to make sure that we plan for the potential of us ending up in skilled nursing or assisted living. So what Medicare is generally going to cover is they're going to cover your skilled nursing following a hospital stay. So more of a rehabilitation piece, right? Not long-term care in a nursing facility. Now, there's certain people that have Medicaid, and Medicaid can pick up some, or in some cases, all of the cost of skilled nursing, but now it's going to limit you to certain facilities that actually accept Medicaid. So the strong word of advice is, in your younger years, in your 40s and 50s, get together with somebody like Dave, have a good financial plan. If you have a lot of assets, maybe develop a type of trust, and maybe have some long-term care insurance to make sure that you are protected from those costs if and when you need that type of care.
Again, Dr. David Mullane is Vice President of Strategic Partnerships and Medicare with Yost Insurance Agency. If you can't find him online, just come to us. We would love to connect you, as this is such an important piece of many folks' lives as they hit retirement age. So, David, thank you again for your help, and please give the folks at Old North Church a hard time for us.
I will, and Brian, just one last thing to you and the team. On behalf of my family, thank you guys for your ministry. I just went online and I made a monthly gift of $42 for my family. And I would love to encourage friends of mine or people that enjoy what I bring to the radio here to match that. Can we get two people that know me to give that almost $500 a year, $42 a month to the Spring Share campaign here? That would be a great blessing to me and my family. And thank you guys for what you do.
That was an unexpected surprise. Thank you, David. We did not ask him to do that. He did it out of his own free will and his good heart. David, that's very generous. Thank you so much.
No, we appreciate all of you. You're such a blessing to our lives, and it's great to be part of your program.
All right. Again, reach out to us to learn more about Yost Insurance or our friend David Mullane. We'll talk to you soon, David.
Thanks. Have a great day.
And if you want to take advantage of that match he threw at you, or challenge, I guess is what it would be, the number's simple, 800-600-9624, 800-600-9624, or go online to moodyradio.org. You can also text the word share to 800-600-9624. And with that, we'll talk.